If you've been trying to build your dream life by pushing through everything alone, today is all about remembering that support changes everything. Welcome back to day three, episode three of Dream Life season. I'm Kimberly Cox, your host, and I am so excited to be here. I say that every single day, and I will probably say that every single episode for the rest of this show. So, today is all about support systems, but not maybe the traditional support systems that you're used to, okay? So, when I was thinking about habits and I was thinking about all the different ways and kind of trying to go down this natural way of doing things, right? I realized that you can't really have better habits if you don't have support for those habits first. So, we need to talk about support systems, but I also realized that not everybody has the same kind of support system. Not everybody has access to actual, like, in person support. So, we are going to talk about all kinds of different ways that you can set yourself up to support yourself, that today's self can support tomorrow's self. Okay? All right, let's get started with our fantastic 15. All right, guys, welcome back. Happy Wednesday. We are halfway through, right? I always told my kids, I said, when you wake up Wednesday morning, you're halfway through. I don't care because the hardest part is opening those eyes, getting out of bed, and getting moving. So if you have your eyes open, if you are moving around, you are halfway through the week. I don't care what anybody else says. So, we're excited about today. We're going to talk about support systems, like I said. So, today for gratitude, I want you to think back to the last couple times, whatever, when you did something that set yourself up for more success later. Okay. Now, this can be as simple as, you know, setting the coffee maker up the night before so that when you wake up, you already have coffee made and you don't have to wait on it, right? This could be like having your supplements or medications right by your bed so you can pop those. I know Jessica McCabe from How to ADHD talks about how she'll have her ADHD medication on her bed next or on her stand next to her bed, and she'll take it, and then like she would go back to sleep for like 20 minutes or so, and then when she wakes up it's kicked in and she's ready to do the thing, right? So that was a very old episode, but like those are all things that we can do to support ourselves. So what have you done lately to support yourself? What can we be grateful to ourselves that we have done to set ourselves up, right? I think back myself. Um, Now, this is going back a little ways, but it's a big one that I thought of. And that was when I was planning our vacation to Florida. I kind of planned through a lot of different ways of doing things, right? I tried every hotel room to have at least a kitchenette in it, at least a microwave and a refrigerator. That way I could have some of my kids' favorite things so that we weren't constantly going out to eat and spending a bunch of money. And also so that they could have stuff that they liked and they could eat when they wanted to, kind of thing. That always helps, having snacks, things like that. So just like pre-planning some of that stuff, right? Packing some of their things that I knew they would want to have, or making sure they packed them so that they had a way to play some games and stuff like that while they were down there. Those were all things that me on the trip was very grateful to myself that I did before, right? So those are all ways that we can support ourselves. So what are some ways in the last, month, 2 months? I know with Christmas, a lot of us do a lot of pre-planning for Christmas, and a lot of us think through a lot of ways and do a lot of things for that. So that could be part of it. drop those in the comments below. Let me know what those are. And we are going to just do a few minutes, few rounds, I guess I should say, of some box breathing real fast before we get into some inspiration, okay? So I'm going to do the counting like that. When I do that, that's a hold. And then we're going to go in, we're going to go out. All right. All right. So in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. All right, let's do this. Okay. Let it all out. Shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it. I love doing the shake it, shake it, shake it thing. So, all right, let's get into some inspiration. So, this is probably, I want you guys to know that I see you, okay? No matter what your situation is, I know that the people who are watching this for a reason. I know that you want the best that your life has. If you didn't, you wouldn't be watching this. I know that life can be hard, and I know that life can feel unfair. And I even know that sometimes we think we have support systems that don't end up being support systems. Okay. I'm going to say this once. If you have a support system that makes life harder for you because it demands that you do things in a way that you're not really able to do it, it's not a support system. A support system is there to help you, to bolster you, right? Not to demand that you're not doing it the right way. Not to say that, okay, but you need to get everybody on this page for me to help. Not to, try to force things to go a certain way when you know that that way is not going to work. You are the mom. You are the person in charge of yourself, and most of the time the person in charge of the kids, right? And so you know what's best for yourself and you know what's best for your kids, and other people might mean well. I heard this a lot in my life. You have a lot of excuses. You have, just no matter what I say to try to help you, you have an excuse for it. And I would, for a long time, I blamed myself and I said, okay, maybe I do have a lot of excuses. But once I started to allow myself to go down the roads that I knew were right for me, and not to judge them, and not to tell myself that I was doing the wrong thing, and not to tell my kids they were doing the wrong thing, but just truthfully go, this system that everybody says is supposed to work does not work for my brain. This other system that I've created does. And yeah, maybe other people aren't going to like it, but they don't have to like it because they aren't the ones doing it. I am. And so I get it if people don't want to support me in what I'm doing, but also don't say that you support me if you're not helping me, but rather trying to force me into a box so that you'll help. So I said that because it occurred to me that a lot of us feel like we're in this space where we can get help, but we have to jump through the hoops and we have to be who other people want us to be to get help. And that drains us because now we no longer have the freedom that we require to do things the fast, the easy, the way that makes sense to us. Now we have to jump through other people's hoops. Now we have to do all the things that we don't think make sense. Now we have to fight all the fights that we don't have the energy to fight. So you don't have to do that, all right? It might take a while to get you to a place where everything is figure outable, but everything is figure outable. So, that being said, my goal is to help you come up with the systems, to help you to come up with the support that you can give yourself so that you're not relying on any one person. Do I rely on things? Of course. I rely on grocery delivery. I rely on my alarm clock to wake me up in the morning. I rely on supplements and coffee to keep me going, right? But do I rely on any one person for everything? No. No, I don't. And the reason for that is because people are human. And I love it when people want to be involved and want to help, but I also understand when they aren't able to. And so I have to do what's best for myself and my kids, and we have to figure out the ways that make sense for us. So this whole season, this whole first month, all right, is about kind of figuring out what dream life is for us, but we're also going to start making small changes and very like understated but substantial changes in our health, okay? So maybe that means we're going to try to go to bed at a decent time. And I know how hard that is. Maybe that means we are going to try to get up a little earlier. We're going to try to get moving a little bit, okay? There's different things that we can do, and I was just kind of running through some stuff in my head for this episode, and kind of in my head out loud. But and I was just like saying that like when our health is not in the right like place, it is very difficult for us to hold on to substantial changes because if we're not getting the right amount of sleep, if we're not, getting hitting our nutrition and hitting our hydration and we're stressed out to the max and all of that stuff and we're trying to make changes, that can be a really difficult place. So making those little changes that give us that advantage, right? So I was listening to a podcast this afternoon and he was talking about like not drinking caffeine for 90 minutes and I rolled my eyes, but then I went, okay, I guess I'll try it. And I was thinking about it and I'm like, okay, but I'm not going to do that until I have bottled water that I can have because right now we don't have any. So in my head, I'm making these plans and saying, when I have this and this in order, then I will start this challenge because I'm not setting myself up to fail from the beginning, right? Our water is, I don't know that it's necessarily dangerous, but it definitely does not taste very good and it smells like pool water for real. So it's one of those situations where I don't like to drink it unless I absolutely have to. And if I do, I like to put stuff in it. And that was not what they were talking about, right? So I want to be able to do the challenge the right way. I want to get the bottled water, have it delivered, have the stuff here so that then I can start that challenge. And that's kind of the thing that I think we need to like think through. And then we can make little steps, right? So right now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get bottled water, like if I'm going to be able to get bottled water in the next, week or so. Um, and so if I can't, then when I know that I can, I'm going to go ahead and put that on my schedule that, okay, like the next morning or that next Monday, maybe, whatever, however I feel like doing it, that is when I'm going to start. If I can get it before then, we'll start early. But that's my start date for that. And I'm kind of setting myself up so that I can do these things, then making all of the little changes necessary to start myself off healthier, right? Getting up earlier and then getting myself moving. Like I'm going to lay in bed for 30 minutes first, right? And do like my deep thinking, my meditation, my visualization of stuff. And then get out of bed, go to the bathroom, do some walking while I'm drinking my water for that first hour, listening to some positive stuff, getting my body moving, mixing that along with listening to some positive positive um videos and stuff. And then from there, I can figure out, when I have my coffee, when I'm either getting ready to work or whatever. But giving myself that firm 90 minutes of, okay, now you really have your 90 minutes of your you time because you're going to get up early enough and then you can have your first cup of coffee. And then after that, you can deal with everybody else. And I love that idea because it one gives me more time for my own personal get my cup filled time. It gets me moving and then I can have my stuff and it kind of sets my day up, right? So setting yourself up so that you have that support though, okay? So what does that look like? That looks like having, meals that my kids can grab for breakfast. They don't like breakfast food. So having, for the most part, lunch items that my kids can have in the morning for breakfast that they can get themselves. I don't have to stop at what I'm doing to make them. They can just ask and I can say yes and they can go grab them and we're good, right? And if that means I have to make some sandwiches, if that means I have to divide up some chicken nuggets so that, we make sure that we're not getting too many or, too many people aren't, one person isn't monopolizing the whole bag and stuff, right? All these things that parents have to do, right? You're like, okay, your sister didn't have any yet, so you need to make sure she gets some. And like, no, like, okay, these are yours, these are yours. When you're out of yours, you don't get any more. Having a situation like that where you pre think through these things gives you that, like, okay, your kids can have their autonomy on that, but then you also are like, okay, you made the decision, now you have to live with it. If you have to have peanut butter and jelly or if you have to have a ham and cheese sandwich, that's what you get because you ate all your chicken nuggets for the first 2 days that we had groceries, this round of groceries. So anyway, those are just my thoughts on setting yourself up. And when you can set yourself up like that, you can do so much with setting yourself up to a point where you can have a lot of stuff automated eventually, right? Maybe, if you are a business owner, you can get to a place where you are able to make the money where you are paying somebody to come in and clean the house. Or if you have kids, you're paying your kids to clean the house, right? And then you're going to give your kids money to run here, run there, whatever anyway. So then they can use their own money and they're still learning responsibility and all of that. And it's all wrapped up in one nice package. And I'm not saying make your kids clean everything either, but they do need to learn that, right? So that's something that I wish I would have had more of when I was growing up because I literally didn't have to clean because my stepdad liked to clean. That was like his thing. So he would do that. And before that, when I was little, when I was living with my grandma, we had a cleaning lady that came. And so, we would pick up throughout the week, but every week the cleaning lady would come and clean the house completely from top to bottom, and it was all good. So, your inspiration for today is just to take some deep breaths and know that you've got this, and we can come up with a plan together to get you in a place where you are self supporting but also supported. Okay. All right. So let's get into moving our body. All right, guys, we are just going to do some simple stretches again. We're going to do some overhead stretches, and then we're going to do some toe touches, and then round it off with some neck rolls. Okay, so First one is going to be up and down, and then we're going to go side to side like that. All right, let's do this. Okay, and down. All right, let's go back up. And down. All right, we're going to do one arm, left arm up, stretch. Wiggle those fingers. All right, and down. And we're going to do one more time up. Wiggle those fingers. All right, down. All right, let's switch arms. We're going to do the right arm up. All right, and down. Up again. Down. All right, let's do some toe touches. Bend down, touch your toes. And back up. All right, one more time. All right, back up. All right, let's do some neck rolls here. Roll it one way. One more time. Now the other way. Alrighty then. All right, let's move on to our in the kitchen segment. Welcome to our fun with food segment. I am excited to be here, like I've said before. So, we were talking during inspiration about setting yourself up, okay? And I was talking about things like not having caffeine for 90 minutes and things like that. So, I want to talk about stacking supports, okay? So, for instance, if I can have my groceries delivered, I'm saving the time, the energy, the sometimes the money of, going to the store myself, right? So, what if I have them delivered and I already have it set up in my mind that the day that they're delivered is going to be my processing day of groceries that need to be processed? Meaning I can wash veggies and fruits, I can, chop things that might need to be chopped. I can have things ready and in containers so that kids and myself can grab them on the fly. Um, Making putting them away a one time process of I can put away stuff that doesn't need to be processed. And then the stuff that does need to be processed, I can process the stuff that needs to be processed but needs to be in the freezer or the refrigerator quickly. I can do that next, right? And then finally do the stuff that doesn't need to be either can wait a little bit on the being in the refrigerator for a little bit longer or, doesn't need to be in the refrigerator at all, right? And then once I do that and I have everything put away, I don't have to worry about doing it for the rest of that time. Everything's done. If you have groceries where it's like, okay, like I cannot take all my avocados and open them and whatever because they're not going to be good for the whole week. And I get that. Okay, there are certain things that you just have to do fresh, and that's fine. Those you cannot mess with unless you're gonna, if you have, there's occasions when I will have groceries delivered at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. And if it's 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, which is my like no work day, okay, I do stuff at home, I do stuff with the kids, but I can totally, if I have stuff delivered at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm probably not doing anything with my kids until 10 or 11 anyway. So I have 2-ish hours that I can chop some stuff and I can do some things. And if I know I'm going to need to use those things that day or the next day, and I can comfortably do that, I can get that stuff done and out of the way. I know that there is a group of people, and I didn't really believe this until I met one, that do not believe that it is okay to pre process food. Like they think that that makes it not good, that makes it gross, that makes it lose its quality or whatever. You eat food at a restaurant that's cooked, and a lot of times those things are way pre-done, okay? So it's the same essential thing when you do it at home. I know that there's some tricks in the brain and stuff like that, and we can argue that one way or the other. The amount of time it saves, the amount of energy that it saves, okay? I want you guys to start to think about all of the times when you have to stop doing something to do something in the kitchen, okay? You have to stop something to get your kids food. You have to stop something to, like, you go to prepare food and you have to not prepare it right away because you have to do dishes before you can cook. There's all these things that happen that if we set ourselves up with the right systems, we may have days when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen a lot less if we follow the plan. If I always buy groceries on Saturday and I always have them delivered in the morning, I can buy them on Friday or Thursday and just have them set up to be delivered on Saturday. Then I know when they're coming. I know what I'm getting for the most part, right? And I know I have a plan. I have time that I can tackle that plan and say, okay, what stuff can like a lot of times I'll buy the bigger bulk packages of meat. So what makes more sense is to buy the bigger bulk packages of meat and then split it apart, and then I can freeze some and I can leave some in the refrigerator and we can take it out of the freezer as needed, but it's there and we have it. But it also helps me save money. And you might go, well, how does it help you save money? And I go, well, if I've already processed it and put it in there, I can go, okay, 2 chicken thighs per person in our house is more than enough considering the fact that one of my kids doesn't even eat chicken thighs. So if I did 8 of them, we would have more than enough. Sometimes those bulk packages have 12. Well, if I bought 2 of those for the week, I could make 2 of those into 3 meals versus 2 meals if I cooked the whole thing. If I'm using my head in ways like that and saying, okay, like I can do this and I can split this up for here, I'm going to save money. I'm going to save time because I'll already have it ready to rock and roll. I can, if I want to marinate it, I can throw some marinade in there or whatever. It's already in a baggie. So if I want to marinate it, but I don't want to marinate it for like 3 days, I can, take the stuff that's in the freezer out and set it on the counter like the morning of, and then throw some marinade in it. And while it's thawing out, it's also marinating. Like there's all these ways that helps us move our day forward. Okay. So if I can do that, I'm helping myself. If I can take a big bag of crackers, a big bag of chips, and split it up into little bags, that way we don't run through as many chips as fast, but also I don't have to play chip police and make sure that someone isn't eating an entire bag of chips in a day and a half. So when I have to play chip police, I have to stop what I'm doing. I have to make sure people aren't taking too much. I have to do all of these things, right? So when you really think about it, if you're doing stuff that way, and especially if you have in between kids, okay? If you have kids who are teens and they kind of know what they like and what they don't like and what they can handle, and they're going to stop before they make themselves sick because, they know that, okay, when I'm full, I'm full. Things like that. Like, it's a little different. If you have little kids who would just take whatever they wanted whenever they wanted, if you had that situation, you can have like a basket. And I used to do this with my kids a long time ago, where I had a basket and they had like 4 snacks a day in there. And when I say 4 snacks a day, don't go freaking out. They had like a one bag with 2 cookies, like one with like 5 crackers in it, like an apple and something else. So a lot of times, like those snacks were two of them would make up one actual snack, right? So I would set those out and they had their names on them. And when they got done, they were done. If they had all of their snacks by, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, then they were done. And they did slowly start to kind of be able to kind of go a little bit longer on that. And it helped them to kind of make the choices. I wasn't just giving them a snack, they got to pick what kind of snack they wanted out of their thing. They got to get it when they wanted it. So, those are ideas that you can use that will help you free up time and energy. And yeah, you might have to front load that, right? You might have to spend an afternoon bagging some stuff up and cutting up some veggies and, doing all the things. But here's where we're going to stack it on top of something else, okay? So, you get to choose what you're stacking it with too, whether you are stacking it with learning or whether you are stacking it with entertainment, okay? And sometimes we stack it with family time. So sometimes my kids will help me do stuff, right? I will have them wash their hands and then, okay, like you can put one handful of chips in each bag and you can count out, 10 crackers and put them in these baggies, and then I can do the stuff that's maybe a little more questionable, like, doing meat and stuff like that. I don't like my kids handling meat necessarily because I'm afraid they're going to touch everything and then everything's going to be contaminated. So, yeah, not something I prefer to do in this moment. Eventually, yes, they will be ones that they will get to do that kind of stuff too. But when we have those kinds of plans in place, then our kids can get their own breakfast, they can get their own snacks, they can make their own lunch. And then that frees you up from that time, right? When you pre plan your lunch, when you have a meal plan and you are like a meal prep and you whatever you're going to make, maybe you make salad, so you have 4 little or 5 little containers and you put salad mix in each one and you add the stuff that's not going to make it gross, and then you can have little cups of salad dressing, or salad dressing is easy. If you're at home, you can just pour some out of your bottle at home, like that's not a hard thing. But you have everything else ready to go, right? That way all you have to do is pour your salad dressing on it, shake it up or stir it up, and you can eat, and you're having something in your body. You're putting something, if it's salad, it's nutritious. If it's something else, it's at least something that's not, you know, microwave pizza rolls or something. And even if it's microwave pizza rolls, it's something. You're putting something in your body. You're giving your body fuel to keep going. You're not living off of energy drinks and coffee and oops, I forgot to eat, right? So that is your tips for our fun with food segment. Um, Pick your things, right, that you can do that are going to make life easier, that are going to support you. Like I said, I used to say this all the time to moms, and they used to get so frustrated because they're like, you don't understand, I don't have time. And I'm like, okay, you're putting microwave pancakes in the microwave every morning at a certain point for your kid anyway. Okay. So if you have them and like, I don't know, microwave pancakes are another story, I guess. But like, I have done a lot of stuff where I've had like Uncrustables, things like that, that the kids could just grab in the morning and they were fine. They didn't need a bunch of prep, they didn't need a bunch of stuff, right? I know I've watched people who are like, my kids love the frozen pancakes frozen. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to judge, but like, wow. But that gives you like that permission in a way, right? Like, it's okay. Let your kids kind of have a breakfast where they get to pick the thing. And don't feel bad if you aren't that mom who is like, I cooked bacon and eggs and muffins and pancakes, and we do this every morning. If you like doing that, then that's great. Even if you like doing it, though, if you like doing it and you are using that and you still want to do other things, like that's a point where I'm like, that's a point for another day, honestly. But really think about what you want, okay? Because there are a lot of times when we want things, um, but we do other things that make us look like we're doing the right thing so that we don't have to do the things that we want because we're afraid of having the things that we want. So if you really enjoy making your kids breakfast, amazing. Go for it, do it. Like if it's filling your cup up, that's great. You can use that as part of filling your cup up. If you want, make the things a little easier, right? Make a bunch of pancakes ahead of time, like on a Saturday or Sunday, and then you still made them. They're still made with love. They're still from you. You can heat them up. You can make a couple of slices of bacon per kid real fast, and they can have a great breakfast, and you can get them out the door. If you are one of those people who is like, but I have all of these responsibility things that I need to do, it's okay to find ways, like I said, to kind of, I'm still doing the thing. I'm still providing breakfast. I'm still feeding my family. I'm just doing it in a different way. I'm letting them pick. I'm giving them options and I'm giving them easier. You can still do healthy options, you know. I know people that do like yogurt and stuff like that, and they get the little yogurts, and you can pick a yogurt and put some granola on it. Or, you know, you can make ahead like your overnight oats or your chia pudding stuff and whatever. Like, you can do that kind of stuff, and your kids can still have that good for them stuff without you having to stop everything to do it. All right. Let's move on to the first ring. Well, welcome to the home and family ring. For the last couple of days, we've been focusing a lot on kids. So today I wanted to take it to the other area there, and we want to talk about your home, okay? This will help your kids, I promise. So I want to talk about setting yourself up with supports in the way of having stations for things, okay? So we can think about this like in the kitchen, right? Where like sometimes we have a coffee station, sometimes we have a lunch station or a snack station. We have areas where we have everything that we need to do a certain thing in that area. So we don't have to wander around the house, you know, forget we're cooking something, start doing something else, answer an email, you know, go for a walk, come back, and everything's in shambles. Like, we can actually do something all the way through, get it done as efficiently as possible. And a lot of times, if we have those support systems in place, things get done faster. Okay. I'm going to give you guys my off take on this. Okay. And this is something that I am thinking outside of the box in, and I have been thinking outside of the box in for a while. But I also kind of put two and two together, and it's kind of genius, and I kind of love it. So if you guys don't know, I am recording right now from my bathroom. I record from my bathroom lately because it's the one quiet place I have in my house where I can record. When I use this little microphone, you can't hear the craziness that's going on out there, even though it can be loud at times, because all you can hear is what I'm talking directly into the microphone. So that being said, um, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about how the first day that I recorded was so easy for me to record. And it was because I got myself up, I got myself ready in my bathroom. all of my skincare, my makeup, it's all in a bin right next to where my tripod is that's holding this camera right now. And so I was able to get ready, and then straight from getting ready, I didn't have to go round everything up, go into another room, start talking to people along the way. I was able to just jump right into recording, and that makes life so much easier. I think when I get my own, when I get the master bedroom and the master bathroom that I'm excited I'm going to be getting soon, I think I'm going to put a small desk in there, because while I will have a studio and we'll be doing a lot of my stuff from the studio when we do batch recordings and stuff, any of my little things that I do, like for social media and stuff, I could do right there. I could do it right after I get ready. I can knock it out of the park right away and it's done. And I think a lot of times we try to make everything perfect. And don't get me wrong, there is something to be said for quality, okay? We should always be striving for some type of quality in things, okay? However, that being said, I think a lot of times we kind of overdo the quality. We take too many takes. We think everything has to be perfect, when a lot of times done is much better than perfect. Done is done. Done gets paid. If we're sitting there taking, 2 days or 3 days to record one, 2-minute TikTok or something like that, you're taking a lot of time, and at that point you're not getting paid enough to do that. So, and while I know this isn't the business section, right, this is the home and family one, but when we can make our home work for us, right, keep the things that you need, have a what do you call it, like an entrance section, right, where you can keep your shoes there. I love when I see people keep their socks with their shoes right by the door. I think that's genius. Once I have a place where I can do that kind of stuff, that is totally what I am doing, because it makes so much sense. Because a lot of times we're not wearing socks around the house, especially my family. Like, we wear slippers. If we wear shoes, then we wear socks. But for the most part, people aren't wearing socks around here unless they're wearing shoes. And so if we keep the socks where the shoes are, then you're not going to miss them. You're not going to misplace them. You're good. I think that is such an ingenious idea to do that. I think that another thing that it's an ingenious idea to have is like a bag with everything that you're going to need in it, to have any folders, anything, like a place where you can preload stuff. So we homeschool, so we don't go to school, right? But sometimes I have meetings and I have to have paperwork with me. Sometimes we're doing doctor appointments and I have to have certain things with me, or I have to pack things so that, because I don't ever do like one kid, one doctor appointment. Like, if we're going to do it, we're going to do both. We're going to cram it in together, and it's going to take longer and it's going to be more of a should-do, but I'm not leaving multiple times, right? So, I have to have some stuff for them to keep them busy, and some snacks and some whatever, right? When they were little, it was even harder because I had more that I had to, do to keep them occupied and stuff. But when we do those types of things, and we are taking our having a place to load all that stuff onto, right? So that when we walk out the door, we can just grab the bag and we know we've already loaded it with everything we need. Another place that this is really good is when you go to sleep, having all of your stuff that you need there. That way you don't lay down to go to sleep, then you realize you don't have something to drink, and then you go get a water and you come back, and then you realize you haven't went to the bathroom yet, and you go to the bathroom, you come back, then you realize, oh crap, I didn't do my skincare. And you could have been asleep already, but you keep having to get up, and the more you're getting up also, you're actually getting exercise and you're getting energy, and it's making it harder for you to go to sleep. So there are all kinds of ways that we can have things set up so that we can, whether it's like I said, whether it's having everything you need in a place to do whatever the job is, or whether it's having a checklist next to your bed that says, do I have water? Did I do my skincare? Did I go to the bathroom? Did I do all these things so that before you actually get in bed and relax, you know that everything's checked off. I used to try to hide from some of the stuff. Um, and it's actually kind of funny because it's not funny, but it is. All right. In my head, it's like it was silly because I should have known I couldn't do that. So sometimes, I would get my kids something to eat, and they are well capable of getting themselves something to drink. This is not something where they're two and I need to put stuff in sippy cups and stuff. They can handle that. But inevitably, I would get them something to eat, and then I would sit down, and then they would be like, I'm thirsty. And then I would feel bad. So I'd get back up and I'd get them something to drink, right? So it's like training ourselves in some ways too, that like when this thing happens, so does this thing. If I'm going to bring you food, I'm going to bring you a drink too. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And a lot of times when we can just work that into our brain and into the way that we do things, like I said, it helps out so much. It builds in those built-in support systems where you don't need extra people to help you do stuff because it's like you do it once, you process it, it's done, and now you don't have to mess with it, right? Or if you do, then you can look through your calendar, you can see when you have time to do that. That's another thing I love about meal prepping and planning is if I have stuff that I'm like, okay, I'm not going to peel potatoes on, Saturday if I'm not going to have them until Thursday. Or if I'm not going to have them, say, Saturday or, Sunday. So now I can look on my calendar and see what time when it would be appropriate for me to have those potatoes because I have the time to do that. So doing all of that stuff, and sometimes it feels like it's more work at the beginning, right? Because it's just like, oh, I'm taking up all this time doing that. But when we can load things, right? Like I did not tell you this. I was got off on a tangent, true ADHD here. But like if you're cleaning something or you are prepping food, you can listen to a podcast, you can watch an episode of your favorite thing, like put your phone up and watch an episode of a TV show that you love, or watch a video, listen to an audiobook. You're doubling those things. You're getting something that's either pleasurable, like entertainment, or something where you're learning something, right? While you're also doing this prepping stuff. Um, I will tell you that as a college student, I do a lot of my listening to my classes while I am prepping stuff because I feel like if I do that while I'm doing dishes, I'm not going to hear everything. But a lot of times, if all I'm doing is like breaking stuff up into other packages, chopping up stuff, I can hear better. I can turn it up a little bit louder or put my headphones on, but I'm going to hear it a little bit better while I'm doing that versus while I'm doing dishes and stuff. Whew. Okay, so that is your home and family ring, talking about support systems, talking about the things that we can do to set ourselves up to support ourselves. We are going to move on to the center ring now. Welcome to the center ring, guys. We are talking all about routines today, okay? And I know you guys have heard me say it a million times. If you've ever listened to me at all, your morning routine is everything, okay? But we're going to go a step further than that. And I am not the one that came up with this, okay? I heard it from Amy Landino. If you don't know Amy Landino, she's amazing. But to set yourself up for a successful morning routine, you have to set yourself up with a good evening routine because your morning starts out with your evening. If the night before you went to bed late, you left a bunch of stuff undone, you wake up in the morning, now you're stressed out, you're tired, you didn't get enough sleep, or you overslept, you have extra stuff you have to get done, you are not going to have a successful morning, or at least not as much of one. If, however, you did the things you needed to do the night before, and everybody's is different, okay? And let me explain this. So, for a long time, I thought that having a clean kitchen was what needed to happen so that I woke up to a clean kitchen in the day, right? In the morning, didn't have to mess with it. I have since reevaluated that. I'm not saying that if I can get it done, it's not a good idea because I do try to. But if I do not get my dishes done, it is actually an easy win for me to get that done as one of my first tasks, okay? And I didn't think about it that way until I started doing like clean with me's where I did like a before and after. Like I would show it before and then I would show little bits of B-roll of me washing dishes and stuff. And then I would do an after. And it never took me longer than 30 minutes from start to finish, even when everything was a disaster. Okay. Even when I had to unload the dishwasher first, like it just never took as long as I felt like it was going to take. And so I started to get to a place where I was like, this is a quick win that actually makes me feel good because I actually see some results. I see what it looks like. I feel like I actually accomplished something, and other people can see that too. So that is something where I can actually like cross, I tell you guys, I put like drink coffee on my to-do list some days, especially when I'm struggling, because I know that that's something that I can do. And I know that that act of crossing something off my to-do list will get me going, will get me excited, will get me wanting to do more. So when I cross that off, it helps. It helps even more when I can cross something off that actually other people can go, oh, wow, you did a good job. Or, gee, that was a mess. You had to really work hard to do that, right? So sometimes leaving that for myself to do as one of the first things actually becomes the best thing for me because then I'm energized, then I'm ready to go, then I'm ready to tackle harder things because I just did this thing that I didn't really necessarily want to do, but I tackled it and I got it done and it looks good and I'm happy now, right? So, you know best what things you need to have done at night in order to make the day better. One is sleep for sure. You need to be asleep. You need to be asleep at a certain time in order for that wake up time to make sense. And we all do it. We scroll too long and then we're like, okay, I can still get 4 hours of sleep. Okay, I can still get 3 hours of sleep. Well, I can move my alarm ahead an hour, and we do it, but it hurts us in the long run, especially when a lot of times if we are truly, and this is the other side of things, okay? And I feel like this even as a creator. I am sitting here. I am talking to you guys. I am doing the same thing that I would be doing if I was sitting in there with my family hanging out pretty much. Yeah, I'm holding a mic. Yeah, I'm kind of nonstop talking and I'm not really listening in the moment, okay? So I'm not getting a break that way. But I'm using so much more energy because I am conveying something to you guys. I am using my energy to create this video. So because of that, I like have to remind people sometimes, like, if all you're doing is you're depressed and you're frustrated, and so you're not doing things, you're not getting up, you're not moving your body, you're not like creating anything, you're not doing that kind of stuff, we can be tired, but it's also very difficult when we're tired to fall asleep because our body doesn't feel like we've really done anything. So it kind of, our brain kind of doesn't feel like it should, like we should be tired, like we didn't really do anything. And then we start overthinking stuff, and then that makes it harder to sleep. So if you are up doing things, if you are being about your business, as I said before, it's going to be a lot easier for you to fall asleep because you're going to feel accomplished. You're going to feel like, okay, I got done at least some of what needed to get done today. I had a good day. Even if it wasn't a perfect day, it was still a good day. And tomorrow I can get up and I can do it again. And I feel like a lot of times we fall into these categories or these like slumps where we will get frustrated or something will happen. And then it's much more difficult to get back on the other side of it to keep going. And so, this is a place where I tell you guys, having those routines in place, even if you fall off of them occasionally, is going to give you a chance to get back on easily. Okay. And give me a second. I'm going to take a drink. Okay. Now, this is the other part of building routines. We want to think about the energy. Okay. Sometimes we don't have the energy to do our full, normal, regular routine. What kinds of stripped down things can you do, right? So, like, if I didn't have my full energy to do a morning routine one morning, sometimes I find one video that's a little bit longer that I know is something that's going to get me going, it's going to get me kind of thinking, get me excited, get me in a good place, whatever. And I drink my coffee and I watch that, and then I decide from there what my next step is. If I'm really tired and struggling, I will watch it on normal speed. Most of the time, I watch things on two times because that's just me. And I feel like if I'm watching it on two times, I actually have to pay attention to it to hear it and to get it. And it doesn't give my brain a chance to get bored and move around on things and not pay attention. So that's just my little ADHD hack. But if you are in that space where you are in that lower energy, what are some things that you can do that you could say, okay, this is enough? If I did this, I can consider it good, right? And then what are some things if, let's say, you woke up and you had a really good sleep and the day before it was really good and you're really excited and you want to just run a marathon? What can you do to get ahead? What can you do to do a little bit more? How can you help yourself? How can you set yourself up later so that when you do have those days where you're like, ugh, I'm tired and I don't feel like getting up, you can, have that, right? Having your night routine, having that, getting yourself in bed on time, making sure that anything that you need. This is another thing that I used to tell my mommy friends all the time. They were like, how did you block so much when you had two under two? And I would say, I would have very simple things. I would, I had one, I did not breastfeed that much. So it was bottles most of the time for the youngest. And then the oldest, I would have cereal or I would have pancakes or I would have something simple that I could put on her tray. I would sit her in her high chair and I would be working and she would be eating right next to me. And my little one would be either napping or I would stop, give her a bottle, and then put her back in there, and she'd take a nap. And I would do things in the cracks of time when I had my kids occupied with other things. And like I know they say you're supposed to sleep when the kid sleeps, and you're supposed to do, but at some point, I think we can go too far with that to a place where we're actually bored. And what our brain really needs is stimulation. Our brain needs to do something where it feels like it's actually accomplishing something. And then we can take the nap and then we can calm down, right? So a lot of times I would have good stretches with both the kids at a certain point where I would get 4 to 6 hours. And at night, their dad would take care of a lot of the stuff so I could get a little extra in there. So I almost always got 6 hours of sleep at night. And then I would wake up and I would get them ready And then I would start on my stuff. I would have my coffee and I would immediately jump into whatever that day's work was, whatever blog post I had to write, whatever interactions I needed to do, because I knew I had the time to do it. And so that was kind of my thing where I set myself up so that I could do the stuff. Now that my kids are older, like I said, there are days when, okay, if the only thing that we have for breakfast is something I have to make, then yes, I have to stop and make it. But if I've already thought that through, I can pre make the stuff to a point where all they have to do is reheat it. Or I can make it, partially where I can, if it's eggs or something, I can get them beaten up and I can get them ready where all I got to do is heat up the pan, pour it in, and call it a day, right? So when we're like pre planning and thinking through these things, we can set ourselves up at night by having breakfast prepped, by having like having an activity that they don't normally do ready if they're little. That way they're interested and they have, their attention is on the Play-Doh or the kinetic sand or, the water table or whatever that they're getting to do in that moment so that you can have the time to do what you need to do. So, those are things that we can pre plan to set ourselves up. And then we don't have to go down the road of, I don't have somebody to help me out and I have to do this all myself. Like, yeah, you do, but we can do this. We can pre plan things. And yeah, there are days when everything's out the window. Kids are sick, things are happening. It just is. And that's the other side of it is you have to be able to go with the flow. And you can't let going with the flow keep you from doing the things when you can. You can't be like, well, they were sick 2 times in the last 2 months. So it really doesn't feel like the other, 29 days of the month really, like when we think about that, that we can get that way, right? Because we have all this stuff that we planned on doing and then a kid got sick or we got sick and then it usually takes a couple 3 days before we're back on the upswing and then everybody's tired because nobody's been sleeping, so it's usually like a week in all actuality out of it, but you have 3 more weeks. Like, get back on the thing. And if we set ourselves up where we can slowly drive ourselves right back on that ramp and get ourselves going back on there where we have that plan in place, how we're going to get back on there instead of just being in this space where we are like, okay, now I need to go from off the road to like everything in my routine all at once. No, like gradually put yourself back there and then you get yourself back going again and then you're going to get knocked off again. It's going to happen. But if you have that plan to get back on, if you have like that mindset of, okay, it's okay if I fall off and it's okay if I even fall off for a month, but I'm not going to stay off. At some point, I'm going to decide when it's time and then I'm going to get back on and we're going to keep going. I did that over the holidays. I told you guys, I took like 2 weeks off. I didn't do any creation really. And I didn't expect to do that. I expected to have a break off of social media, but I expected to have a bunch of stuff already done so that then during the first of the year, I could take a couple of days off and just roll stuff out and be like, look at me, look how cool I am, look at what I just did. But instead, I was like, look at me. I'm sitting here doing nothing. And now I'm putting all of this energy into stuff, but I have the energy to give. I have more of that energy because I took the break. Alrighty, guys, drop in the comments what are some ways that you can set yourself up at night and some ways that you can set yourself up in the morning that are going to help you to be able to have these systems that are going to keep you going. And let's get into our last ring for the day. All right, guys, welcome back to ring 3. I am so excited for this one. I almost gave you guys a bonus of this one with the home and family ring. And then I decided that it worked better with business But this is something that you can use for business or for home. And a lot of these you can interchangeably use, okay? Just because I'm using them in one ring doesn't mean that that's the only time that they can be used. So, we're going to talk about something that I call the procrastination stopped list, okay? So, a lot of times we procrastinate things because we don't have all the necessary items. We don't know where all the necessary items are. We don't know what the actual plan is. And so when we have these unknowns in our brain, it makes it very difficult for us to move forward. Our neurodivergent brains want to know exactly where the start is, exactly where the finish is, and what the goals are in between to get there. It's very easy for me to batch content when I already have an outline for each video that I'm going to do, and I know why I'm doing each video and what it's giving to the overall picture. It is so much easier for me to jump in and just do it because I can't argue it at that point. I can't go, oh, well, I don't know if that's a good idea because I'm the one that came up with it first. And I don't know, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should do this instead. Because I have a logical reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. When I'm just throwing stuff out there for the sake of doing it, it's a lot harder to not only create the content, but also to post the content. Because maybe I create it, but then maybe I second guess it while I'm editing it. Maybe I want to find a certain effect and I can't find it. And then I'm like, well, this doesn't work if it doesn't have this. So now I'm not going to do it, right? So the procrastination stopped list is, it can be whatever you make it to be, okay? But basically, it's a list that has all of the components that you need to get a task, a job, your workday, whatever it is, done, okay? So sometimes we can use this in like life, okay? In like home life. It's really scary to try a new recipe if you don't have the recipe where you can see it, if you don't have all the ingredients already, if you don't have the time to make it, and if you don't have a backup plan in case it doesn't turn out. But once you have all of those in place, it can be very fun and beneficial to try a new recipe while we are over here going, okay, like I already know what I'm doing. I know the plan, I have all the ingredients together, and we can actually walk ourselves through the plan by getting stuff ready then. That can be our first step, can be gather all the ingredients, put them on the counter. Then read through the recipe once or twice and make sure we know when we're doing what. And when we start breaking things down into steps like that, it makes it much easier for our brains to process. The same thing goes for when I'm recording videos, okay? I love ChatGPT because ChatGPT has helped me so much with, and I do this some of the time. I used to do where I would just let ChatGPT kind of, I tell it what the feeling was, I tell it some of my points, and I would let it kind of work its magic. And then I would look at the thing and I would go, okay, how do I put that in my own words? And sometimes it was easy, and other times it was like, okay, ChatGPT, you did not at all spit out what I just told you to spit out. You were off in left field somewhere, and I don't even know anymore. Now I come up with, like, I say, okay, help me come up with the themes and help me come up with a couple of, like starter things there. And then I talk on it. It's kind of like in speech class when you were given a topic, and okay, like maybe the topic was rock bands or something, and then you can talk about rock bands in any way you wanted to talk about them. You just had to be up there for 5 minutes talking about rock bands. So much the same way, I use Chat GPT now to help me. I'll give it like, okay, this is what I want the month theme to be, and I want to hit these points somewhere in there. And then it'll give me like, okay, these are your weekly themes, these are your daily themes. And then I will look at the daily themes and I will figure out how I want to make those into each segment. And I love that because I have the idea. I know why I'm doing it because I'm the one that chose that. But ChatGPT gave me like a layout, a format that makes it easier, but then didn't give me too much to where I feel like, okay, I can't make what you're saying work, but I like what you're saying, but it didn't come from me, right? So I love doing that. So when I have these cards, like this is today's card, I will show it to you there. And this was the whole thing, right? It has the hook. I wrote the hook down up at the top, and then it has just a couple of words for like inspiration, a couple of words for the kitchen, and then a couple of words for each of the three rings. And it's enough to jog my memory, and then I just go from there, right? I just talk about things the way I would if I was explaining something to a friend, because you guys are all my friends. So when I have that all laid out, though, it makes it so much easier for me to hit record and do the thing because I know what's going on. I have everything that I need on my procrastination stopped list in order to not procrastinate. So, this can look like so many different things. And I love the concept of this, and I also love that you can make it your own. I am not giving you a foolproof, this is how you do it. I'm giving you an idea and telling you to run with it. So maybe your procrastination stop list has on it things that I need to do before I start this thing. Something that I forget to do sometimes and can sometimes be difficult, but sometimes not, depending on what I'm doing. Like, okay, if I'm doing a recording session one, I will talk about like I need to have something to drink, especially when I'm recording longer sessions. I need to stop and have a drink every now and again. But like, okay, maybe you need to put going to the bathroom on there before you start, right? Because if you have to stop to go to the bathroom, do you really feel like getting back and doing it again? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Sometimes, we get busy, things happen, whatever, we stop doing the thing and then somebody else comes in. So maybe on there you have to have like set up things for the kids to do so that they're busy doing something while you're doing this. Um, Maybe you have to go, okay, I've seen vloggers out there who are like, okay, I have like 4 hours before I have to pick my kids up from school. Well, if you have 4 hours before you have to be somewhere and you just set your kids up with something super messy, you better build in that time that it's going to take to clean, or the next time you're not going to want to do it because you're going to remember the horrendous like stress that you had when you had to leave your house messy to go pick up your kids, and then they come back to the mess and want to keep going with it, right? So you have to kind of think through those things. And sometimes you're going to run into things where you're not going to think about it right away, but the next time you're going to know that you need to put it on there. And then you're going to have that list, and you can have lists for all different kinds of things, right? A procrastination list for recording things, a procrastination list for sending out pitches to different companies, a procrastination list for like a lot of times we procrastinate by being on social media, and we're like, well, social media is what I do, so if I'm scrolling, I'm helping, right? I'm like engaging and helping my cause. But really, what you're doing is procrastinating. So if you're like, okay, I can set a timer and I can use this as like my reward, I'm going to reward myself a little before I even start. I get 15 minutes to scroll on TikTok or something. And then after I finish what I need to do, I can give myself a little bit longer than that, right? I can give myself maybe 30 or something, because I bookend it with the things that I enjoy. That way it makes doing it, even if it's fun, sometimes there's parts of it that aren't fun, right? Sometimes there's parts of it that we're like, okay, like when I do these episodes, it's a long time. I put a lot of work into these. This is an hour to an hour and a half worth of sitting here and talking to you guys and recording. If I'm batching content, I'm sitting for 2 to 3, maybe 4 hours doing that. So to bookend myself and say, okay, you get 30 minutes before start to kind of listen to music or scroll or whatever, and then we're going to get this done and we're going to take a break in the middle, but you're not going to touch your phone. You're going to go deal with the kids, do whatever you need to do to make sure everything's settled, and then you're going to come back 30 minutes later and we're going to run through the next hour or two of what we're doing, and then you can bookend it with something that you like afterwards, right? But setting ourselves up with these procrastination stopped lists, giving our brain all the information it needs so it feels safe and it understands why we're doing it. So it's like, okay, this is actually an okay thing. I know why we're doing it. It makes sense. Let's do it. All right, guys. I want you to drop in the comments, what one thing do you need a procrastination list for? Mine is probably emails, and not checking them, but writing them, because I still have not figured out a good system for emailing people. And that's something that I know I'm going to need this year. So I think that is what I'm going to have my procrastination list for now, is not only in the finding one and keeping one, which we're probably going to roll with Course Creator 360. That's what I love. But also then creating those emails and having an email like newsletter kind of thing that goes out at least monthly so that people are used to seeing me in their inbox, and I'm not just popping up when it's like, oh hey, yeah, we're starting something, like here's a buy from me, right? But I'm giving them content that's actually valuable every month or every couple of weeks that they can enjoy, and then when we have something, we can add that to that, right? Alrighty, guys, thank you for being here. I am going to go ahead and wrap this up right now. Day 3 is in the books. All right, I need to tell you guys this. I wanted to wrap it up with this story because I think this is so fitting for so many of us. So, I was sitting down yesterday to figure out, I wanted a Kanban board for all of the episodes for this. I wanted to be able to move things. I wanted to be able to see the progression, that if I was like batching, I had it moved to filming and then I had it moved over to editing, and I could move stuff clearly and feel like I was moving through a process getting stuff done, right? And then I wanted to do it for the whole quarter because I've decided we're making this a quarterly season. So there will be 12 weeks of content, and then I'm going to take a break. I'm going to spend time with my family. I'm going to go take them somewhere. We're going to go do something. And then I'm going to come back and do 12 more weeks. And then we're going to do the same thing. Um, I feel like that's a really good rhythm, and that still gives you guys enough content that if you really miss it for that week, you can go back and watch some of the beginning episodes or whatever that you haven't, that you've haven't seen recently and stuff like that. So I felt good about that. And I came up with all this list, and it was like 96 episodes when you add in the deep dives that I'm doing. There'll be a deep dive that drops today. It's going to be in the center ring category, in the self category. And actually, no, it'll probably be in home and family. I think I did center ring first. Yeah. So I think it's going to be in home and family today. Anyway, um, it's like 96 episodes. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's a lot of episodes. And I sat there and I thought to myself, like, did I just make a mistake doing that, right? Did I just overwhelm myself by telling myself, oh, okay, you're signing up for 100 episodes virtually of this in 3 months? And then I decided that we are going to do a two-sided thing. So you guys will probably see this at some point. right now I'm going to do it in my bathroom because I have this wall back here and I have the wall on the other side here that are right around my sink. I am going to start a countdown, count up calendar for these episodes because sometimes it is so exciting to think, okay, we're on episode 3, tomorrow will be episode 4, then we'll get through a whole week. And then, we just keep going and we're adding and we're building and it's exciting. And then sometimes when that building doesn't feel as exciting and when it doesn't feel like you're making enough effort, which will happen, I don't care if you have, 5,000 people watching. At some point, you're going to feel like, okay, am I really making a difference, right? Are people really caring about this? Are a lot of those views actually watching this? Or is it like bleeding into and they haven't turned it off? Or they ran into it and then they clicked off of it because they didn't want to watch it or whatever. So I have like another thought in my head, which is a countdown calendar. And I want you guys to think about this because sometimes we need the reverse psychology of things. If our brain knows there's a definite end where if we don't like something, we can get off the plane, we don't have to be on it anymore, we just have to hang on so long. It's a lot easier for us to hang on and not jump ship completely, right? If we know there's an end. So I was like, I can put down a countdown and like cross off days, episodes, whatever you want to call it, so that I see myself actually hitting that goal and getting through those days. And I think it's such an exciting thing to do both because some days you need to see what you've accomplished already. Some days you need to see, look, I've already crossed off 5 days. Like we can do another 5 days, right? And then we can do another 5 days. And some days we need to see the progress. And oh my goodness, look at all that we've done. And we're adding and we're building and it's getting better. So when you have both sides of that, your brain can relax. It doesn't feel like there's this infinite thing. And I also had the foresight to say, okay, like 96 episodes, I'm going to be really tired of doing the same thing every day, all the time. So we are going to periodically find different ways to do things, whether we are doing our filming from a different place, whether we are, maybe having special guests come in, even if I have to do them via like a Zoom and we have a Zoom where I have like a co host for a day or so. And some days we're just gonna like, instead of having such a strict thing, I will give you guys little bits of tips, but also maybe we'll play some games and do some fun things like that. But that is my way of kind of helping myself to do this thing, which I'm so excited about, but also like it's a big undertaking along with everything else that I'm doing. And so being very realistic with yourself, setting up things that like light you up. Like it lights me up to cross things off, but it also lights me up when I get to add to a list and I'm like, look at all my accomplishments that I've done, right? So having both is this like constant reminder that I am building something amazing, but also like if it doesn't turn out the way I want it to, we can pivot, we can change, we can move this thing. We just have to stay doing it for 3 months so that we know for sure that it's not just, okay, we need to get in there, we need to get going, or, we hit a slump, something happened, whatever, right? All right, guys. I love y'all. I am so grateful that you were here today. Make sure you are paying attention to the different things that I asked you guys to put in the comments because these are for you, okay? These are for you so that not only can you kind of have some accountability out there, right? But also because when we type stuff, we're like thinking about it as we're typing it, and it's even better when we write it and when we say it out loud too. But when we're involving more of our senses, when we're doing more stuff like that, it actually has an effect where we remember things, we hold on to things easier. It's going to make it much easier for us to achieve our goals. All right. I love y'all. Have an amazing Wednesday. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Day 3 is in the books. All right, I need to tell you guys this. I wanted to wrap it up with this story because I think this is so fitting for so many of us. So, I was sitting down yesterday to figure out I wanted a Kanban board for all of the episodes for this. I wanted to be able to move things. I wanted to be able to see the progression, that if I was like batching, I had it moved to filming and then I had it moved over to editing, and I could move stuff clearly and feel like I was moving through a process getting stuff done, right? And then I wanted to do it for the whole quarter because I've decided we're making this a quarterly season. So there will be 12 weeks of content. And then I'm going to take a break. I'm going to spend time with my family. I'm going to go take them somewhere. We're going to go do something. And then I'm going to come back and do 12 more weeks. And then we're going to do the same thing. Um, I feel like that's a really good rhythm, and that still gives you guys enough content that if you really miss it for that week, you can go back and watch some of the beginning episodes or whatever that you haven't, that you've haven't seen recently and stuff like that. So I felt good about that. And I came up with all this list, and it was like 96 episodes. When you add in the deep dives that I'm doing, there'll be a deep dive that drops today. It's going to be in the center ring category, in the self category. And actually, no, it'll probably be in Home and Family. I think I did Center Ring first. Yeah. So I think it's going to be in Home and Family today. Anyway, um, it's like 96 episodes. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's a lot of episodes. And I sat there and I thought to myself, like, did I just make a mistake doing that, right? Did I just overwhelm myself by telling myself, all of the, okay, you're signing up for 100 episodes virtually of this in 3 months? And then I decided that we are going to do a two-sided thing. So you guys will probably see this at some point. Right now, I'm going to do it in my bathroom because I have this wall back here and I have the wall on the other side here that are right around my sink. I am going to start a countdown, count up calendar for these episodes because sometimes it is so exciting to think, okay, we're on episode 3, tomorrow will be episode 4, then we'll get through a whole week. And then, we just keep going and we're adding and we're building, and it's exciting. And then sometimes when that building doesn't feel as exciting and when it doesn't feel like you're making enough effort, which will happen. I don't care if you have, 5,000 people watching. At some point, you're going to feel like, okay, am I really making a difference, right? Are people really caring about this? Are those views really, are a lot of those views actually watching this? Or is it like bleeding into and they haven't turned it off? Or they ran into it and then they clicked off of it because they didn't want to watch it or whatever. So I have like another thought in my head, which is a countdown calendar. And I want you guys to think about this because sometimes we need the reverse psychology of things. If our brain knows there's a definite end where if we don't like something, we can get off the plane, we don't have to be on it anymore, we just have to hang on so long. It's a lot easier for us to hang on and not jump ship completely, right? If we know there's an end. So I was like, I can put down a countdown and like cross off days, episodes, whatever you want to call it, so that I see myself actually hitting that goal and getting through those days. And I think it's such an exciting thing to do both because some days you need to see what you've accomplished already. Some days you need to see, look, I've already crossed off 5 days. Like we can do another 5 days, right? And then we can do another 5 days. And some days we need to see the progress. And oh my goodness, look at all that we've done. And we're adding and we're building and it's getting better. So when you have both sides of that, your brain can relax. It doesn't feel like there's this infinite thing. And I also had the foresight to say, okay, like 96 episodes, I'm going to be really tired of doing the same thing every day, all the time. So we are going to periodically find different ways to do things, whether we are doing our filming from a different place, whether we are, maybe having special guests come in, even if I have to do them via like a Zoom, and we have a Zoom where I have like a co-host for a day or so. And some days we're just gonna like, instead of having such a strict thing, I will give you guys little bits of tips, but also maybe we'll play some games and do some fun things like that. But that is my way of kind of helping myself to do this thing, which I'm so excited about, but also like it's a big undertaking along with everything else that I'm doing. And so being very realistic with yourself, setting up things that like light you up. Like it lights me up to cross things off, but it also lights me up when I get to add to a list and I'm like, look at all my accomplishments that I've done, right? So having both is this like constant reminder that I am building something amazing, but also like if it doesn't turn out the way I want it to, we can pivot, we can change, we can move this thing. We just have to stay doing it for 3 months so that we know for sure that it's not just, okay, we need to get in there, we need to get going, or, we hit a slump, something happened, whatever, right? All right, guys. I love y'all. I am so grateful that you were here today. Make sure you are paying attention to the different things that I asked you guys to put in the comments because these are for you, okay? These are for you so that not only can you kind of have some accountability out there, right? But also because when we type stuff, we're like thinking about it as we're typing it, and it's even better when we write it and when we say it out loud too. But when we're involving more of our senses, when we're doing more stuff like that, it actually has an effect where we remember things, we hold on to things easier. It's going to make it much easier for us to achieve our goals. All right. I love y'all. Have an amazing Wednesday. I will talk to you guys tomorrow.